Welcome to Ideagen TV. Today we are ecstatic to have with us award-winning singer, songwriter, actress, luminary, leader, philanthropist. Where do I end? I could be going for days on this, but our good friend, Mary Millben. Mary, welcome.
Yes, don't go on for days. Hello, George. It's great to see you, my friend. Thanks for having me back on Ideagen TV for this exciting visit with some beautiful, beautiful guests we have today. Delighted to be here with you, George.
You know, Mary, there are a lot of people that we, bring on to Ideagen TV, but you have been a constant source of inspiration, of leading with empathy, and of understanding how to truly change and inspire, not just change, but inspire the world, millions across the world. And so I am so humbled and honored to introduce you today as you embark on this incredible interview with Georgetown Visitation, some young ladies and the head of school from Georgetown. I'll let you introduce them. Looking forward to an incredibly inspirational interview. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, George. And hello to everyone. Welcome to our audience. We are delighted to have you here with us today on Ideagen TV. You are in for a treat with a wonderful group of guests we have today. I'm delighted because they're all beautiful women, young women, and we are so excited to have them all here. So I'm going to bring them all in. Let me introduce you today to our audience to Dr. Barbara Edmondson, who is head of students for Georgetown Visitation. And joining us with Dr. Edmondson are three bright, shining stars. I'm so excited and delighted to have them here with us, students from Georgetown Visitation. Alexis, Lauren, Maggie, come on in. Welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you with us as well. Joining Dr. Edmondson, I tell you, if there's anything that I love, what I love most is to sit down and talk with young people, next generation, those who are being groomed to lead the way. And we're living in such an exciting time where energies all across the world are happening to empower and inspire young women and girls. And so, Dr. Edmondson, delighted to have you here with us. Lauren and Alexa and Maggie, delighted to have you as well. And why don't we jump right in to set the stage. Ladies, I would love to give each of you about 2 minutes just to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you are. Dr. Edmondson, would love for you in your introduction to share a little bit of your work with Georgetown Visitation. And so, Dr. Edmondson, why don't we start off with you and introduce you to our audience today. I think we have you on mute, Dr. Edmondson.
Thank you, Mary, for that wonderful introduction of both myself and the girls. As you said, I am Barbara Edmondson, the head of school at Georgetown Visitation. We're located here in Washington, D.C. And before coming to Visitation, I spent my early career in higher ed, then as a superintendent of schools for the Archdiocese of Baltimore, and then as a chief leadership officer in the National Catholic Education Association. My last stop has been here at Georgetown Visitation, and the reason for that is because it gives me the opportunity to work intimately with young women, our future leaders, just some, as you will meet, some incredible young people. They are the joy of our days. My work at Visitation, everything from strategic planning to spiritual leadership to fundraising, and then, of course, engagement with our board of trustees and our larger community. But really, as I was saying, the joy of my day are these three young, wonderful women and their peers, 500 more of their peers that in a non-COVID environment appear on our campus each day. So that's who I am, and I'm anxious to hear what the girls have to say about themselves in their own introductions.
Excited to have you, Dr. Edmondson. Thank you so much for being with us. I'll next introduce Alexis Safakis. Alexis, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Alexis Safakis. I am a junior at Georgetown Visitation, and I am part of the tennis team at Visitation as well, the golf club. I am a newly elected officer for Think Pink, which is a breast cancer awareness club at my school. I am a new member of Model UN this year, so I'm really excited to improve my public speaking skills. I have been in Best Buddies, this club, since freshman year, and I am a publicity manager for the Georgetowner, which is my school literary magazine. So I'm very excited for today's panel.
Well, we are glad to have you, sweetheart. She is star number 1, Alexis Safakis. Star number 2, let's bring in Lauren Wiggins. Lauren, we're so glad to have you. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell a little bit about yourself?
Hello, my name is Lauren Wiggins, and I am currently a junior at Georgetown Visitation. At Visitation, I have participated in basketball, cross country, and track, which has taught me the importance of communication and teamwork. In addition, I am a member of the following 3 clubs: Think Pink, which advocates about breast cancer awareness; Best Buddies, which fosters inclusion with kids that have intellectual and developmental disabilities; and Black Women's Society, which gives me a platform to discuss topics that are not in textbooks and important to my development as an African American young lady. I enjoy writing poetry during my leisure time, which has made me become a very analytical thinker and express my creativity. My values to my keys to success are demonstrated through my hard work, determination, as well as support from my family and friends.
Wonderful. What incredible achievements. Congratulations, Lauren. We're so glad to have you with us. That's our star number 2. And star number 3, we'll bring in Maggie Sullivan. Hello, Maggie. We're so glad to have you here with us.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, dear. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, my name is Maggie Sullivan, and I'm a junior, just like Lauren and Alexa, at Georgetown Visitation. And I was last season captain of JV field hockey, along with playing ice hockey in the winter. And I participate in many clubs around campus, as well as running one, which is called Christ Child Society. And outside of campus, I really love to hang out with my friends and bake. And when quarantine started, I decided to take my love of baking and turn it into a business, which I named Baked by Magza, which is a nickname known to many. It's my nickname at Visi. And over quarantine, I have made over $3,000 baking cookies for friends and family and people all throughout social media who find my stuff and buy cookies from me. So.
Wow. Well, I will have a list of all my favorite things that I would love for you to fix and invest in your company so that I don't have to cook anymore. How about that? Congratulations, Maggie, on your great success with your company. And I tell you, to our audience, you are in for a treat because we have 3 bright, shining stars with us today. And as you can see, very accomplished, doing wonderful things in their community and certainly have achieved in their academics. And so we're just delighted to have all 3 of you here and led by the great Dr. Edmondson. It takes a great instructor to build great leaders. And so we're just delighted to have you all here with us. So let's jump right into our conversation today. You know, here on Ideagen TV, we talk a lot about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Global Goals. It's a big part of the Ideagen TV platform. And it really speaks to what's important for all of us to be doing across the world. And so today, I want to start us off, Dr. Edmondson and Maggie and Lauren and Alexa. I'd love for us to just chat a little bit about the UN Global Goals. And specifically, as future global leaders, which you are, I want to ask this question to the entire panel today. Let's start with, let's start with Alexa. So what do you think is the best approach to attracting more young people and creating awareness about the 17 UN Global Goals? And Alexa, let's start with you today.
Yes. I think a very good way would be, for sure, through social media, spreading the word to peers and encouraging others to use their voice. I think videos are a very effective way, like hearing personal stories from people, whether it's a story about people that don't have access to clean water, whatever the circumstance is, hearing from people themselves really makes people care and take action. So I think that would be a great way to start.
That's wonderful. And you're exactly right. The power of social media and the power of technology can be a great way to engage. That's wonderful, Alexa. Lauren, why don't you chime in? What do you think is the best approach to attract young people and creating awareness about the UN Global Goals?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with Alexa for this answer. Social media is really impactful and important with spreading and getting the awareness across. But also, I think it's the little things that help as well, teaching the youth good habits like getting a daily dose of exercise, especially outside, picking up trash if we see it on the streets or in nature, recycling, and not to waste food. And overall, presenting that achieving these goals requires a lot of teamwork and dedication.
Absolutely. It takes a team. It takes all of us chipping in to do our part every day. And those are wonderful ways, Lauren. Maggie, why don't you chime in? What are your thoughts on best approach to attracting young people to create awareness about the global goals?
Well, I think that Alexa and Lauren both did a great job speaking on which the best approaches to reaching the teens would be. And I think the only thing I could conclude about that is really just using social media to the fullest, because kids, especially teenagers, spend hours on social media a day. So expanding the outreach to TikTok or Instagram or even Snapchat, I think you could reach so many more people and get kids more involved daily.
Absolutely. You're right, Maggie. That social media really is, it's especially for your generation, it is the main vehicle to communicate and to inspire. So all three of you hit right on. I think what's really important is engaging social media as a way to recruit more young people. Dr. Edmondson, I'd love to hear your perspective as an educator from your point of view. How can instructors as yourself encourage more young people to create awareness and get involved with the UN Global Goals? I think we've got you on mute again. That's okay.
Again, okay.
No.
So everything that the girls said and everything that the girls do when they describe their activities is what I was thinking, is that we talk about the whole idea of, thinking globally and acting locally. And many times we use that to describe the environment. And Lauren was talking a little bit about that, about care for the environment. But I really think that during these high school years is a wonderful time for these girls and other young people to gain awareness about the issues around the world, but then in their own communities to act and become models of change. It's a great opportunity for them to understand the complexities of poverty and hunger, of a lack of quality education, because right in their own communities, they can see some of these same problems. And so getting in there and being introduced to a new environment, understanding and being sensitive to other people, and then really beginning to learn what it takes to network and to know who those persons are that they should be talking to have an impact and to affect change. I think starting locally then allows them to gain those skills and that confidence to really sort of cast that net wide and be involved in global change.
Absolutely. That's what it's about, being involved in global change, indeed. Dr. Edmondson, while I have you, I want to spend a little time here with you, speaking to your incredible career and tenure as a woman in education, and certainly living and building a life that has been dedicated to young people. And so as a successful woman with a career, a tenure in education, and the investments that you have made in young people, I'd love for you to share with our audience some key anecdotes or pieces of advice for young women and girls that may be watching today that can be inspired to follow in your footsteps. What are some anecdotes or points of advice that you would give to young women and girls, drawing from your incredible tenure in education and your experience in leadership?
Oh, thank you, Mary. Well, if following my footsteps means pursuing something that brings them joy, that brings them satisfaction, and that allows them to use sort of a multitude of skills and to meet many people, then I would say go for it. I think young women today have so many opportunities that maybe I didn't have. And their world is wide open to possibilities, to meeting new people, to to traveling the world. And, you know, as the students were talking about social media, how powerful it is to have access to the world by being able to use our technologies and being in different places at any given time. What I would say to these young women is sort of, you know, follow those dreams, try new things, do things that really help you to understand new perspectives. Find that thing that makes you wrestle with your thoughts and tug at your heart, and then champion that issue, champion that cause. Stay with it, be perseverant, and always remember along the way to reach out to people, to support you, to guide you, to mentor you, and do the same for others. So whatever their career path should be, what I would say is do it because they love doing it and know that each day they're making a difference.
That's beautiful, Dr. Edmondson. Boy, I want to come to Georgetown Visitation every day. These young ladies, Alexa and Lauren and Maggie, and all of the young people are so blessed to have you in leadership at this time during their tenure at Georgetown Visitation, to have that kind of inspiration. And you're right, finding what you really love to do and sticking with it and being determined. It really is, it's wonderful advice. So I'd love to ask, thanks Dr. Edmondson for those wonderful words. I'd love to bring the entire panel back and go to our next question. Ladies, with the current global situation happening, how do you feel our progress, how do you feel about the progress towards achieving these global goals and their level of impact? Why don't we start with Lauren this time?
Well, I do think that during this time, a lot of things have been happening and rising, and this is a very essential time for us to really reflect and think about what is going on in our society and what we can do to change it. So although it may not be as broad as the goals may have been expecting, it's slowly getting a little bit better.
Sure. Absolutely. And certainly, Lauren, we can see that with the unfortunate situation of the coronavirus pandemic, that certainly has magnified the conversation of the global goals and how we have to readjust on how we are accomplishing those goals in this different situation. So your words are right on. Maggie, why don't you chime in? What do you feel about the progress towards achieving these goals during our current situation?
Well, I think me personally, I've had a lot more time on my hands since quarantine has started, besides baking, of course. But I think this gives me more time personally to try to achieve these goals, not just for myself, but for my family and for my friends around me, and encouraging others to do so as well. And I think this is giving people another perspective on life, because you're also spending a lot more time with your family during this time. So becoming closer as one and then trying to become better as a whole, I think is something we are all able to work on during this. So
that's great, Maggie. Great words. Alexa, why don't you chime in? How do you feel about the progress towards the global goals during that situation?
Yes. I feel that we all have the great privilege with our phenomenal doctors and good healthcare, and with this pandemic, I feel like it's going to humble a lot of people to better recognize the world around us and hopefully drive us all to want to help others more.
And since you mentioned it, why don't we take a moment and say thank you to America's heroes, to all of our heroes across the world. We call them heroes because that's what they are, frontline workers who have gone through such enormous sacrifice to care for so many people across the world. So we all here at Ideagen TV and all of us ladies here today certainly want to say thank you to our heroes across the world and our frontline workers. Dr. Edmondson, why don't you chime in? Your thoughts?
I would have to agree with what Alexa was saying, that I do think that our current situation with a global pandemic has really created a greater awareness for many of us, hopefully for all of us, of the interconnectedness of all human beings, regardless of where our land is, where we call home, that there are needs across our nation. Even here in the United States, we know that those who have been most affected by the pandemic are those who are marginalized, those who have some of the greatest needs and challenges in their daily life, don't have access to good health care, live in poverty. And so that really should create a greater understanding for us of how it must be in other parts of the world, and how just as we need to work towards solving issues here in our own land, we need the things that have worked and the things that we can share with others will allow us to make for a better world, not just a better country, but a better world, because the human condition is the human condition. And so regardless of where we are, how can we make it better for all mankind?
Absolutely. And that's a great statement, Dr. Edmondson. The human condition is the human condition. That we unfortunately have seen the escalation of disparities across the world that I think in many ways has brought to light that point that we all demographics, are experiencing the difficulties of this time. And so we should be empowered to come together to address them in the context of bettering humanity as a whole. So great words, Dr. Edmondson. I want to move to our next question. And with some of those comments, Dr. Edmondson, that you just shared, we've seen disparities highlighted certainly across the planet. The global goals give certainly awareness to that. And so Dr. Edmondson, I'd love for you, if you start off in response to this question, what can we teach the next generation of young women on how to address these disparities, and particularly how we achieve gender equality? We're in a time where there's a lot of conversation across the world about gender equality, and certainly the unfortunate situation that we're experiencing is magnifying inequalities amongst gender. So I'd love for you to speak to that. How can we teach our young women to give focus to achieving gender equality?
Well, Mary, the first thing I have to do is apologize that I think I heard the words come from my mouth that said all mankind rather than all humankind. So at this panel of beautiful women and talking about gender equality, let me correct myself and so talk about humankind. I think here, many times on this campus or just in sort of the environment that I live in, when we talk about gender equality, we're often talking about career aspirations, women in leadership roles, women in certain areas such as science and math, or equal pay for equal work. Those tend to be the issues that we talk about. But more consequential with regard to gender equality are issues around the fact that if women are not educated, and we know in many places, in many countries, that women are not a priority or even kept from quality education, we know that a lack of education leads to a likelihood of poverty, a likelihood of poor health, poor nutrition, domestic violence, child marriages, having children while one is a child herself. So many serious consequences come from gender inequality, really centering around that whole issue of education and quality education, which we know is one of our sustainable goals. And so I think in an environment such as mine, where we're educating young women, what we can say is that this is really personal. This is about them, and this is about all women around the world, that we need to stand together, we need to stand in solidarity, and we need to raise our voices to say that women should be treated with the same rights, with the same opportunities, and given opportunities not only to live a good quality of life, but to lead and to bring their voice to the table. I think, men have led for all of time.
Sure.
And I think it's time to bring a different voice to the table, and that together we might be able to solve some of these really mammoth problems that we have, ills of the world, the crises that we see each and every day.
Dr. Edmondson, you have hit a chord in my bones. When we start talking about women empowerment and start talking about more women at the table, that makes me that gets me excited, Dr. Edmondson. I tell you, it's so important. Your words are so valuable, especially at this time where we do need more women, diverse voices at the table, all tables, as we're trying to address and achieve equality across the world. And so your words inspire me. They certainly do, and certainly important for our audience to hear today. Ladies, I want to bring you in to come in on Dr. Edmondson's comments from a student's perspective. I'd love for all three of you shining stars to speak about why education for girls is so critical across the planet. So why don't we start with Maggie this time? Maggie, why don't you speak to why education for girls is so critical across the world?
Well, supporting what Dr. Edmondson say, they always tell us at Visitation to be who you are and be that well. And I think that we all try to live by that. All the Visi girls do. And they have taught us through freshman year to have confidence and say what you think and say what you believe, especially in class when you're standing up for yourself and asking a question. You have to be confident in what you say. And I think teaching girls from a young age to have confidence in themselves can really help for them to strive for gender equality in the world going forward as they get older and grow into the work world. And I think seeing women with confidence is very powerful to me because it helps me to have more confidence in what I say and what I do. So I think it radiates throughout Visitation, which helps girls see that and realize what they can become. So
right. That's great words, Maggie. And you're so right, because it helps, just like you said, when as a young woman to see other women, that role model, that visual is so important for young women today. Those are great words, Maggie. Alexa, why don't you chime in? Why is education for girls so critical across the world?
Yes, Dr. Edmondson and Maggie, you guys both did a wonderful job. I couldn't agree more with what Maggie was saying about confidence. The be who you are and be that well, that is definitely something that we hear a lot. Girls, it's really important for them to know their worth and to stick up for themselves. And like Maggie was saying, to be confident and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
That's right. Girl power, Alexa. That's what I got out of that. That's right. Having the confidence in yourself and certainly being empowered in that regard. Great words, Alexa. Lauren, why don't you chime in? Why is education for girls so critical across the world?
I think that Dr. Edmondson, Maggie, and Alexa did outstanding jobs for answering this question. For me, I came from a household where the word can't is nowhere in my vocabulary. Because if you want to do it, you can do it. So for an educational standpoint, it's the idea of success has broadened where education is so important, especially for women, that it's something that we should all strive for. Even though that there are moments where we will struggle, because trust me, there have been moments during my academic journey where I have struggled, but I haven't given up. I've reached out for help and I've just continued pushing through. But once you have the education, that knowledge, no one can take that away from you. And with that knowledge, it can lead to the ability to make
confidence, knowing your worth, having the impact and influence of women, and knowledge. Wow, that's great, Lauren. Having that knowledge, that education that will take you all the way. Boy, I tell you, already, I know our audience, if we had a live audience here, we would be clapping by now with everything that these beautiful young ladies have shared, and certainly the great words from Dr. Edmondson as well. I want to jump right into our next question. We've talked about what's necessary to achieve gender equality, speaking about the influences of women as role models, confidence, self-worth, knowledge, the education that's necessary. Let's talk a little bit about some of the inhibitors to reaching gender equality, or in general reaching the Sustainable Development Goals. So Dr. Edmondson, why don't we start with you? Maybe speak a little bit about, certainly taking in account what's going on across the world today, what are some of the inhibitors to reaching gender equality and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals overall?
Well, certainly when we talk about a more global perspective, certainly we have culture, we have government, we have many things that are great inhibitors. to women having equality, for there to be gender equality. Even beyond those, just if those aren't the inhibitors, if there aren't institutions that are the inhibitors, it's ideas, it's myopic views, it's a unwillingness to listen to the perspective of others. It's divisiveness. I mean, things that are happening here in this country and around the world, they shut people's minds, they close people's minds, they shut people's ears to hearing others' perspectives and what's important. And I think many times it is, unfortunately, many times we raise young women to be complicit many times. And because of that, we never get to see their tremendous energy, the gifts that they bring, their intellect, and all that they have to offer. And so I think, these young women, when they have their own children, when they're working with other young women, they really won't bring the same perspective to that conversation. They themselves will be models of strength. They themselves will be models of equity. And so I think that the whole idea of inhibitors is everything, that is very micro when it comes to families and messages that are out there in the media and stereotypes that are in the media, to very macro kind of thing when we talk about culture and government and such. So I'll stop there because I want to hear from the girls.
No, it's great, Dr. Edmondson. Thank you so much for those words. Ladies, I'd love for you to speak about, as young people today, what are some of the inhibitors to reaching gender equality and the Sustainable Development Goals? Speaking to Dr. Edmondson's words, how breaking down those different stereotypes and barriers so that young women can be empowered today. So why don't we start with Alexa? What do you feel are some of the biggest inhibitors towards achieving equality?
Yes, for sure. As Dr. Edmondson was saying, the culture, really changing the culture to just get everyone on the same page in terms of girls and making sure that they also get education. And in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, I think especially in this pandemic, the funding cuts and the lack of hands-on volunteerism is definitely very hard, and in-person meetings, the lack of all those things is definitely very challenging. So hopefully those will all come back soon and gender equality can come back too. And
Yes, Alexa, and you hit on something very important, that a lot of what's occurring during this season with the pandemic across the world, the lack of funding, just that has stopped progress with important programs and focus on gender equality and fulfilling in general these important sustainable development goals. So you hit on a great point that we all hope that we can start seeing more forward motion as the country here in America starts to open more, as the world starts to in some ways come back to a fluidity, that we start seeing dollars directed again towards those important entities and programs and foundations and areas that are very important to achieving equality and achieving all of the goals. Great point you mentioned, Alexa. Lauren, why don't you chime in? Some of the biggest inhibitors that you feel are present in regards to achieving gender equality and sustainable development goals?
Well, I think the overall major goal has something to do with fear, and many people still struggle with the willingness to change and take risks. And because of that, that fear controls that, and that fear is put into stereotypes and racism, and and it's just coming out all at once, especially more now during this pandemic. But I also think that, and because of these fears, reaching gender equality and the other goals is viewed much more as a task and something that will be like so much of a burden rather than something that needs to happen as soon as possible.
Absolutely, Lauren. Fear many times is one of the big inhibitors towards us achieving any of our dreams, or certainly in the context of our conversation today, the these enormous goals that are so important to developing equality across the world. Great comments. Maggie, why don't you chime in? Some of the biggest inhibitors towards gender equality and reaching the Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, I believe that the judgment of others probably is the biggest one, in my opinion, because everybody is always so fearful of what others are thinking about them or what they may be saying or how they may be judging them. And I think if everybody were to just eliminate that from their head, it would solve so many issues, especially for women. And just really going for your goal would be quite easier if they just forgot what everybody said about them, had confidence, and went for it.
Absolutely. Have confidence and go for it. Maggie, I love that. It's slogan on a t-shirt. Have confidence and go for it. And that's right. You know, I think sometimes we as women, as young women, we allow little things like judgment, fear, those things to get in the way of us. Because speaking to Dr. Edmondson's comments earlier, that society has built-in norms, or there are certain stereotypes or things that get in the way of us of going forward with what we want to achieve. And so you're exactly right. It's eliminating the judgment, eliminating the fear, as Lauren alluded to, and not being afraid to go for what we feel called to achieve. So Alexa, Lauren, Maggie, I tell you, Dr. Edmondson, I know you're so proud of these young women. Boy, I tell you, to hear their wonderful comments, the world is certainly, we are certainly blessed to know that these young women and others coming up are in line to help achieve these big problems. I want to jump in and talk a little bit about leadership and innovation. You know, during our time this season in the pandemic and what we're seeing across the world, now is the time where we need great leadership. We need innovation. We need young women and girls to step outside of the box and do unorthodox things in order to achieve these goals. And so, ladies, I'd love for you to chime in and talk a little bit about why we need effective leadership and innovation to help us through this global pandemic and achieving these goals. So, Lauren, why don't we start with you? Why is leadership and innovation important today?
Especially during this pandemic, people are being affected not only physically through their occupation, but mentally and spiritually. And the leadership that we have now has emphasized division and not inclusion. So we need the type of leadership that we need. We need compassionate leadership that we can put our willful trust in and deep concern for whom is ready to advocate change and solve challenges to rebuild the economy and our society as a whole.
That's wonderful, Lauren. Compassionate leadership. Great words. Maggie, why is effective leadership and innovation important today?
Well, I think it is seen as a great guiding light, especially to Alexa, Lauren, and I. And I think that Busy has been doing a great job with effective leadership these past few months during everything going on with the start of our new school year, because we already had a plan of action in July of what the school year was going to look like when we started at the end of August. Mm-hmm. So I get very anxious when I don't know what's happening. So Busy always has a plan, and they're very great about laying it all out there for you. So their effective leadership is very motivational to me to be the same and to strive to be the leader that I can be, just like Jesus was as well.
Amen. And we're going to talk a little. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Mag. We're going to talk here in a moment about Georgetown Visitation and being a faith-based institution. And I applaud you for your words of speaking to the leadership and the example of Jesus. So that's wonderful. Alexa, why don't you chime in? Why is leadership and innovation important today?
Yes, it is so important, especially innovation gives a lot of hope and new things, and you know, all these new things today, self-driving cars, it doesn't stop. So we're very fortunate with all of those things. And leadership, Maggie, you really touched on that with Visitation. They are really doing a great job. So these leaders, as long as they continue to help us to convince everyone that we can and will get out of this pandemic. That's That's really what we
That's
need.
right. You're right, Alexa. We need great leadership that can encourage us to keep moving forward, in these difficult times that we're facing today. And no worries, I tell you, that's some of the ups and downs of being in a pandemic with all this technology and us having to do any reason things from home. Telephones go off, lights go off, who knows? So don't you worry at all. You Alexi did a great job answering that question. I couldn't have gotten through that phone ringing 3 times. So great job, my dear. Dr. Edmondson, a few comments in regards to why leadership and innovation is important during this time.
Sure, absolutely. Trusted leadership and shared vision is really the key to affecting any change and making people feel good and having that sense of, intrinsic value and reward. Throughout my lifetime in my career, I've had the opportunity not only to lead groups of people, but really to go around even the country and do professional development and educate school leaders. And one of the things that I always tell, especially graduate students, when I've taught graduate school and they're in educational leadership, I always tell them that the job of the leader is to create new leaders. And so, as a leader, it's really trying to gather and to capture collective thinking, collaboration, the newest ideas. The leader doesn't always have the best ideas, but the leader has to be the one to say, I'm open, I'm listening. Tell me where we can go from here. Tell me what's next. Tell me how you might do it. It might be different than the way that I would do it. Or tell me what you might be thinking about this. And so effective leadership is about collaboration, and it's about valuing all the people that you are trying to not only work with, but also just for these young people to sort of enjoy life with, valuing new perspectives, new ways of doing things. And so I feel very confident in these young women here and their classmates to know that they are leaders. They are leaders in their own right, and they're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. And sometimes I feel like we're following them because they just have the best ideas and great enthusiasm.
That's so true. And today I will definitely say I'm following their lead as they are listening to their beautiful comments and how they have thought out how they would seek to change the world as young leaders. It's wonderful. I want to jump right into the next question because Dr. Edmondson, you started to go in. I think we were reading each other's minds. Started to that conversation about collaboration. Effective leadership is understanding the power of cross-sector collaboration and the importance of teams and the importance of a diversity of voices at the table. And so just to start right with you, Dr. Edmondson, if I can, how do you infuse collaboration into your daily mission, into your daily activities, into your leadership, leading these beautiful young women and students in the context of your goals in academia and certainly in achieving your endeavors and additional goals with Georgetown?
Mary, if I could, I'd like to use the pandemic as an example of this. And the girls were talking about the plan that Visitation put forward. And really here, I said it in humor when we first started our task force for reopening our school, but it's true. No matter how many experiences I've had in my lifetime in leadership or on a team to solve a problem, I've never led in a pandemic before. This is first, and this is the first time, and hopefully the last time for all of us. Yes. But we couldn't be effective in what we do here at Visitation or all the others that are navigating this new and this unknown event opportunity unless we were willing to collaborate and have that cross-sectional leadership, bringing people that have, in our situation, serve different parts of our community, relying on the health experts to talk to us, to ask questions, to challenge us, and just being open to the fact that, we're going to make some mistakes, but let's give it our best. And if we make mistakes, let's own them. Let's see what we could do differently. And if around the table, we don't have the ideas that we need, we don't have the solution that we need, where can we find it? And being willing to reach out to say, I need your help. What would you do in this situation? Would you join a meeting with us? Would you join a conversation with us? And so I think that effective leadership is about bringing the best minds around the table and making sure that those best minds represent diverse perspectives.
Absolutely. Great words, Dr. Edmondson. You know, the phrase that we have heard so much throughout the pandemic across the world is "we are stronger together." And I believe that phrase is so important, even in our conversation today, as we are discussing achieving the UN global goals, and certainly for our young ladies today, fulfilling their dreams. We're stronger together. Collaboration, I think, is the greatest key to achieving dreams and to achieving what's best for the human race. And so your words are so great, Dr. Edmondson. Thank you for what you just shared. I want to bring our ladies back in, and why don't we start with Alexa this time. Alexa, I want you to speak to the importance of collaboration. How do you infuse collaboration into your daily life as you work to achieve your goals?
Yes, I think collaboration is so vital because it ensures people's ideas and viewpoints are really expressed to make change and celebrate accomplishments. And in terms of my everyday life, class discussions are a small example of collaboration done through my day, allowing us all to just work together. For instance, when we collaborate in groups, people say things that I never would have thought of. And so it just brings us one step closer to creating change for the better.
Absolutely. Collaboration is important to creating change. That's great, Alexa. Lauren, why don't you speak to how do you infuse collaboration into your daily life to achieve your goals?
Well, I will say that through collaboration, you gain different perspectives in order to create new innovations and to embark to a road of change. One example that I have, just like Alexa said, through my everyday life, through class discussions or projects, another example that I have was something that I participated in a few years ago, was an organization called Arena Stage, under Arena Stage, called Voices of Now. During my time there, I collaborated with a group of kids to create and perform an educational play called Tongue Tied. Now, the phrase tongue tied had to deal with when you're put in situations that you don't know you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do. And together we took my group mates' real life stories and put them together, and it was amazing. It had to be one of the best accomplishments that I have ever done.
And congratulations to you. I'm very familiar with Voices Now, very familiar with Arena Stage. So while we have it, let's plug Molly Smith and Arena Stage and Voices Now and say thank you for the great work that you're doing for young women and girls. It's a great program there at Arena Stage, a great theater, one of the premier theaters, certainly here in the United States. And Voices Now is a great program. So congratulations to you, Lauren, on being a part of that great program and the goals that you achieved there. Maggie, why don't you chime in? How do you infuse collaboration into your daily life to achieve your goals?
I agree with Alexa and Lauren's points about collaboration, and everything they said was very spot on. I usually involve collaboration outside of school and everything they do to have us come together as a class. If that's in small groups or a big class project outside of school, my family really focuses on collaborating together, coming together, and making sure we know what each other wants and what our needs are. And I think that's really important, especially in my family. And knowing what others think and being respectable to what they believe is a great quality to have. And so collaboration can come in many forms, but I think being respectable to what others are saying and thinking and learning from what
Absolutely,
they say.
Maggie. And we are living in a time where we need to admonish and to push that point, Maggie, that we all may have different opinions and come from different places and different backgrounds, but what's most important is that we're learning from each other, that we're listening to each other. That's the best way to learn. That's the best way to achieve our goals and coming together. As Dr. Edmondson alluded to, having different perspectives, different voices at the table, that's important. That collaboration, those different, the difference is what is important in the context of achieving goals. So Those are great words, Maggie. I want to jump to our next question and talk a little bit about Georgetown Visitation, which Dr. Edmondson and our ladies today have talked a little bit about the institution. One of the highlights, I would say, and important factors about Georgetown Visitation, that it is a faith-based institution that incorporates the importance of faith as young ladies and students are working to achieve their goals. And so I want to start, why don't I start with Dr. Edmondson? I'd love for you to speak about your opinion on faith and why that is important at Georgetown Visitation.
It's a big question. It's why I'm here.
Yeah.
The opportunity to share our faith and to walk together as people of faith is so important. And I think these young women will say, when they have the opportunity to speak, that they draw their strength and their sustenance, just as I do, from not only having that faith, but being able to be open about it and to practice that faith, to pray together, to lift up our concerns to the Lord, and to be there for one another. But when I think about the goals, when I think about the 17 sustainable goals, what I think about more than Georgetown Visitation and who we are as a faith community is I think about God's creation, that all these goals really speak to care of the person, care of the earth, care of one another. And so I think that faith has everything to do with progress and care for humankind. And so I hope that as these new leaders, these young leaders, and the girls who graduate from this school and around the world, that they'll call upon their faith and their God as their guide to why they do what they do, why it's important to care and to promote equality, why it's important to fight the injustice of poverty, and so many other these issues. It's because God has created this world for us to care and to love for one another.
Yes. Boy, we could spend a whole day talking about this, Dr. Edmondson. It's such an important conversation. And as all women of faith here today, I'm so glad that as we're coming to a close in our interview, that we're speaking on this important point. What you said was so true, that faith is important for progress. It's a part of progress. And we can certainly see across the world how faith communities, faith leaders, and just the element of faith has certainly been an importance to us getting through this pandemic and looking to achieve these goals. And so it's so wonderful, your words, Dr. Edmondson, that you just shared. Ladies, I'd love to bring you in as well and talk about this element of faith. Why don't we start with Maggie this time? Maggie, why, in your opinion, is faith important to you and important to what we have to achieve today?
Well, growing up in a Catholic family, we've always been the ones that get up, get dressed, 10 a.m. Sunday Mass every single Sunday. And years after years, it's changed, but we've always been going to Mass. And in my family, as a Catholic, I always rely on my faith at the end of the day. When anything is going wrong, when it's a scary storm or a bad test grade or some nerves, I always just take a minute, calm down, take a deep breath, and pray, and just rely on my faith and my trust in God to use his guiding light to just guide me on the right pathway for me and keep me going strong. And I've always relied on faith through this journey of the pandemic to having surgeries when I was little. Just knowing that there is a greater force above watching over me, it calms me down. And I think that's what we all have to remember, that there's somebody, no matter what you think, there's somebody above looking out for you and making sure you know it's all going to be okay at the end of the day.
That's right, Maggie. Beautiful. There is someone above looking down on you and all of us. And that is so true, my dear. And that's beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you for sharing that, Maggie. Alexa, why don't we bring you in? Why, in your opinion, is faith important to you and certainly into what we have to achieve today?
Yes, for me, faith certainly gives that extra encouragement. As a matter of fact, right now, in religion class, we're talking about how justice is wrapped in religion through everyone being part of a society and a greater whole. And we all rely on the common good for the proper knowing of discipline through our gut instincts. So no matter where you go, however you are, it all goes back to faith. And, that's carried through us every single day. We, at Visitation, we always say the direction of intention, which is a prayer at the start of every class. And it's a great way to start the day.
It is. That's beautiful. Directive intention. That's wonderful. And that's beautiful that that you have the exercise of starting your day in school every day with that prayer. That's beautiful. The importance of prayer. Maggie spoke to it, and certainly you did as well, Alexa. The importance of prayer is so vital for us today. As we take on the challenges of life and the challenges of the pandemic and the challenges of achieving these goals, prayer and faith is such a big part of that. So beautiful words, Alexa. Lauren, why don't you chime in? Why, in your opinion, is faith important, and certainly to achieving what we have to do today?
Well, I agree with Maggie, Alexa, and Dr. Edmondson when they say that faith is crucial during these shifting times. But to me, faith gives me hope, it gives me confidence, and guidance that things will get better. And this is especially enhanced at Busy through prayer, reflection, and the little virtues, and helping others. Busy doesn't only provide the resources for young women to grow academically, but they also mold you to become spiritual women of faith.
Absolutely. Beautiful, Lauren. Boy, I tell you, not only are you three bright, shining stars, bright, shining leaders, but you're all preachers in yourselves. And so today, certainly you have given us many sermons from you all on the importance of faith, the importance of prayer, the importance of that higher being, as Maggie alluded to, that is there and active for all of us. And I tell you, it's beautiful that you ladies are a part of an institution, that you have such an incredible leader in Dr. Edmondson that infuses the importance of faith, the importance of God, the importance of prayer as you work to achieve your personal goals and to achieve the global goals across the world. My favorite part of the interview, I must say, it's beautiful to hear young women, young people speak about the importance of faith. It's really, really, really wonderful. So to end our conversation a bit, I want to talk about the message of empowerment. Of course, we have our audience today, all have been inspired listening to all of your comments and responses as it relates to achieving the global goals, how we work to bring change across the world, how we work to make the world a better place for all people. And what an inspiration that you ladies have all been to us today, including Dr. Edmondson as well. There's so many great role models across the world that we can look to, young women who are doing this just as you are, using their lives in a way to inspire other young women and girls across the planet. And so what I would love to do as we close this segment, I would love for each of you to speak to a young woman who inspires you, or it could be a woman in general, outside of Dr. Edmondson, because she's the first. We all know that, so we can just get that out of the way. Dr. Edmondson's at the top of the list. But I'd love for you young ladies to speak to a woman or a young woman that empowers you, encourages you to share the message of empowerment throughout the world, and speak to what Georgetown Visitation is doing to further empowerment. So why don't we start with Lauren? Maybe speak to if there's a particular woman or young woman across the world that is a role model to you in the context of empowerment, and what things Georgetown Visitation is doing to empower.
So a woman that empowered me, surprisingly, worked at Visitation. She was the academic the academic dean, and her name was Miss Grimaldi. She has been there ever since my mom went to school there and was there for a couple of years while I was there. And she just advocates empowerment and she's so close with her faith. And one of the most important things that she taught me as a visitation student was to reach back. And we all at one point were a freshman in high school. And during that time, we all needed or wished that we had that one person that we could just look up to for guidance and leadership. So I demonstrate this, and Visi also emphasizes this by giving underclassmen guidance when lost, reliable support when in struggle, and readiness to listen when faced with challenges.
That's wonderful. Wonderful, Lauren. Wonderful, wonderful. Maggie, why don't you chime in? You want to speak to a woman or a young woman who has been an inspiration to you in the context of empowerment and how Georgetown Visitation is empowering?
Yeah, well, my woman isn't too far away. She happens to be somebody very close to my heart, but a fellow Visi grad as well. But my grandmother, Glory Sullivan, she is a businesswoman, a mother, a sister, a caregiver, as well as being a Catholic. And I really would love to embody all the qualities that she does at the whopping age of 88,
Wow.
because she's just a go-getter. She just goes for it, and she makes me feel so strong and so confident. She really does radiate confidence. And I'm serious when I say that. Being a working mom from a very young age and going to Georgetown Visitation across the country when it was a junior college from Wisconsin, she really did come from nothing. And she built her way all the way up to run a company and move to Washington, D.C. and find love and get married. And at the end of the day, she still came back to her faith to thank God for how her life went and how successful she got to be. So, and at Visitation, they're great about empowering us through many activities that we do in our daily schedule, along with having clubs that are very good for empowering women and making sure we know to be confident in our own skin. So
that's wonderful. Wonderful, Maggie. And how beautiful of you to honor your grandmother today. What a wonderful woman she is. And it's beautiful that you highlighted her today. Alexa, why don't you chime in and speak about a woman or a young woman who has inspired and certainly been an example of empowerment to you, and how Georgetown Visitation is empowering.
Absolutely, yes. Lauren, Mrs. Grimaldi, she will always definitely be a mentor to me. And Maggie, that's incredible with your grandmother. One of my mentors, or not mentors, but someone I look up to is a woman by the name of Immaculée Elabizada. And at Visitation last year in religion class, we read her book called Left to Tell. And it's all about how she survived the genocide in Rwanda. And it's just such an inspiring story of her bravery and her trust in God. And she really just prayed and she let God do the rest. And that is, I look up to that so much.
Wow. And I tell you, Alexa, that's so beautiful, because genocide, we certainly could speak about that for a long time, but the horrific day-to-day situations that many experience during certainly the Rwandan genocides across the world. I can only imagine what it was like to live through that. And so so glad that you've been able to draw on the inspiration of that story as a mechanism of empowerment. That's really beautiful. Boy, I tell you, ladies, you ladies have blessed me so. Well, I tell you, I've learned so much from you listening to your responses today, and your energy and your compassion and your hearts. It's just, I tell you, Georgetown Visitation is very blessed to have young women like you coming and preparing to come into the world, to take over the world, to lead the world. There's no question that you ladies are going to do great things. You're already doing great things, but going to do great things to make the world a better place for so many people. And I know our audience today has certainly been blessed and inspired and challenged to do the same by your beautiful presentations today. So thank you, ladies, so much for what you have shared. Dr. Edmondson, I'd love to end our time today with you and a bit of a challenge to our audience today, and asking, what is your post-summit, post-interview ask to our global audience as we continue to change the world and make it a better place for all people? Oh, I think we got you on mute again. Oh, that's okay.
There we go.
Go.
I think my words would be very simple, and you're going to say it's pretty obvious because I am an educator, but I think we can solve the world's issues and many of its problems through education. So my ask is educate, 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 and love all. You know, approach the world with love, and I think we can change the world because love can change all.
Dr. Edmondson, Alexa, Maggie, Lauren, we have been so blessed to have you all with us here on Ideagen TV today. I tell you, our audience, I know, again, if we had a live audience, folks would be clapping and cheering, but I can feel from our audience, they are inspired, and we have all been inspired today by this wonderful conversation. Ladies, wishing you all the best in your year, your school year. It's quite an unorthodox year, so we're certainly sending our prayers for you as you are back in school and working to achieve your goals. Dr. Edmondson, we'll come back with you in a minute to close our interview with a few questions and conversation, but I wanted to close out this segment. Thank you to our audience, and we'll be back here shortly with Dr. Edmondson.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.